Is your instant match reaction 4, Everton 0, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. Very similar to the opening week of the season. I've got Mark Mosey, Dave Downey, Ed McCosh, Les Roberts and Matt Flusk. Everyone wants in on this. Oh, Les has got off already. In true Park End style, he's gone early.
I got my glass of Coke, that's what it was.
I'm gonna I was just saying, I'm gonna do something a little bit different this year. So each week on these podcasts, I'm gonna pick someone at random at the start. I'm gonna say, give me a 30-second summary of that football match. And I'm gonna start off with Mark Mosey. So Mark, you've got 30 seconds. Anyone who didn't watch that football match, explain it to them in 30 seconds.
Well, this being the first time we've ever done this, there's no previous, but I can guarantee you now, if you listen back to this equivalent podcast in 1, 2 or 3 seasons time, this 30-second summary will be the same, because this is getting all a bit Groundhog Day. Everton battering at the door for 20 minutes, getting everyone inside the stadium thinking that they're going to see some actual positive football, and then the realisation that you've got a bad manager, some bad football players, a bad owner, a bad stadium, the grass isn't even cut nice, everything about the place is horrible. Try as they might to do the unthinkable of score a football goal, it seems well beyond us. And despite finding their goalkeeper 25 times in the air, our goalkeeper couldn't do it once. We're destined to go down. We've got bad players, we've got no money, and I hate everything about them.
Oh, I mean, that was a great effort for the first time of that. We should end it now. We could just end it now, really.
We need one for 30 minutes each to leave this game.
But yeah, but in all seriousness, Dave, no goals, no points. No hope after that, or not?
That's right. As I said, the first thing I said on Twitter then is we've got 5 days to save ourselves, I think, because it's that blunt, isn't it, now? But the way we can see, when we concede goals, I think now we've actually only had 5 shots on target in 360 minutes of play. I actually thought this is similar to what Flusk said the other day about how we got on against Fulham in the first day. I actually thought a lot of it was okay. I thought we looked quite attacking at times. Danjuma playing up front as well. We spoke about that early days, didn't we? When he first got him, that he had that versatility in his game. Thought that looked decent. But then there felt a sense of that inevitability. Everyone getting frustrated when we're not having any shots on goal. And then there were some players today who were really, really shit. And I'll start with Patterson, because I thought he was dreadful. Then I put just second was Ashley Young, but also Onana.
His set pieces are getting a whole section.
Essentially that's why you've signed someone like him, is to get a cross into the box for Calvert-Lewin. That's probably bread and butter for us when we're trying to attack in games. But every single cross went to Sarr in goal for them. Anytime he put the ball in, the keeper's just catching it with ease. So he was dreadful at left back. Patterson, I thought, was worse on the right. And then Onana, I think I'm going to pick out mostly as well, because I just don't see the hype over him. There was a lot of hype when we spent that much money for him. There's a lot of hype because of internationally what he's like for his country. But he just goes missing for me. And he's looking like a bit of a myth. That's not to say there aren't people around him that affect that sort of thing. But when you've got Doucouré being head and shoulders above everybody else in one game, that speaks a lot, and that's not to doubt him, but that speaks a lot of the players alongside him, I thought.
My turn, is it? Okay, I mean, last season I went to watch Manchester City and I was absolutely blown away because they did something amazing, and it was basically one player would get the ball and then pass it across the field to the other player's feet, and then they'd cross the ball and it would go onto their player's head. And I thought, that's really clever, that. And I went to watch Ipswich Town in League One, and they did the same thing. Pass, collect, cross, header, and it was really good. I was walking through Sefton Park the other day, and I saw some kids do it as well. Pass the ball, 2 feet, cross on the head. It was really good. And I thought, if someone can teach Everton players to do that, we might have a chance. We might be able to raise some money by doing some sort of charity £5 for every cross we put in the goalie's hands, because we might get the money for the new stadium that way. But otherwise, what really, really annoyed me, as I think I've alluded to here, is the lack of basics, really. The lack of final quality is obviously not good, and we didn't have enough shots of quality, but just the really basic stuff of being able to pass the ball, control it and move it on without looking like we're completely panicking. I think I had a tiny bit of sympathy for Deitch sticking with the same team over and over, because one thing we saw today is a lot of players really didn't look familiar with each other. A lot of passes where one player saw a run that another player simply did not see. So we watched the ball just floating into the ether. And a lot of players getting confused. And the fact that Tarkowski and Pickford, who've played together for more than a season now, could get so confused. We're lucky that Fabio Silva's useless. But Sarsak collides that obviously wasn't useless, and that's why, once again, no goals, no points, not looking good.
Les, he's back. He's back in the room. Just very downbeat start to the podcast, mate. What are your overall thoughts on that?
I'm not going to bring any joy and happiness, I'm afraid. Although, do you know what? Like I was thinking before. So obviously, I always like to take everyone back to the 80s or 90s. There we go. There we go. Scrolls all around. Right. The benchmark for terrible starts has got to be Mike Walker, 94, 95. I think we had 9 points in November. 3 of them, I think we got the last week in October. We've still got a stretch to go to that, but we're well on our way. It's like you can't dominate 2 home games like that against, what are probably going to be 2. Well, Wolves are going to be there about relegation fodder. Fulham will probably be decent mid-table side at best. You can't be dominating games like that, not taking chances and expecting to come out of it with something, because that's 2 like classic smash and grab aways now, and you can't put any fault on the away teams because they've ridden what they've needed to ride out, and they've taken the one chance they've got. Fulham, to be fair, Wolves, to be fair, I don't
think today was as smash and grab, was it?
It wasn't, no. They had one disallowed. They had that one they should have buried when Pickford and Tarkowski ballsed up, but I think as Ed was saying, then there's just the side's completely incoherent, isn't it? Another thing that did me head in today as well was Lewis Dobbin getting taken off. It felt like the easy substitution to make. Now, for my money, I said against Fulham as well, Nathan Patterson's been dreadful this season. I would have hooked him, put Garner at right back, determined to play a midfielder at right back, aren't I? stuck him there. Stuck Danjuma on the right, kept Dobbin where he was, or put them either side and then put Chimitty up front. But it was the easy substitution to make, wasn't it? The inexperienced player, he's had a good 60 odd minutes, but we'll bring him off now. There was no reason to that at all. As you said, Ashley Young looked absolutely terrible. I think Matt, you messaged in the group before, we've got a left back on the bench. Up for debate, but you're right, yeah. Theoretically, yeah.
Nothing else, he's a specialist left back.
Yeah, that's his position.
His first full season and his second half season in the Premier League. Now's the time to play him and see exactly what kind of player he's going to be.
Are we doing this thing though, where they're all bad players?
Yes.
And Mikolenko at the end of last season was he is a massive problem. And now it's he's not Ashley Young, so maybe he's not that bad actually. Is it just Laura that they're all quite bad?
Oh, they are all very, very bad. All I'm going to say is that I was not going to drink today because I am very, very, very hungover. But I am stood here right now, back on it, because I am ready to hurt my liver all over again. That is all I have to add. And actually, Michael Keane got to play up front, much to, I'm sure, everyone's...
Too late.
Should
have brought him on 20 minutes earlier.
Instead,
just on the Ashley Young thing, he's played all pre-season and are open 3 games. He's 38. So he looked good in pre-season, and he's the player who you're gonna bring in, to fill in. You would have thought, not to be the first choice left back, and that's not his fault. He's not gonna have the legs to do that. I know he played about 20 odd games for Villa last season. I think that was at right back, but he shouldn't be playing that many games. He shouldn't be in every single game. It's just pathetic, top to bottom, isn't it?
Yeah. Matt, this is a big podcast today.
I didn't think it was that bad. We played much worse last season and got points.
Do you think it was on par with Fulham? Because you said similar things to that.
Very similar to Fulham, yeah. Very similar to Fulham. I think part of our pre-season training must have been taking a machine gun to a mirror shop, because we look cursed, don't we? We just look cursed. Fulham, you could say, was bad finishing. Today we had, once again, a goalie playing out of his skin. I mean, that one, was it flagged in the end? But it comes back off the post and into his hands. Was that flagged in the end?
Yeah,
that one.
Danjuma.
Yeah. Things like that going on. It's bloody hell. I mean,
I don't know. I think
chances.
I think missing a header from 3 yards out is not bad luck. That's not being cursed. That's just awful finishing.
No, but yeah, absolutely, yeah. But it wasn't really missed, was it? It was brilliantly saved. But yeah, I walked away from that game feeling confused more than anything, because I can see how we can turn it around if we just get a little bit of a rub and one of them goes in, shoulders lift a bit more, but it's just very weird. It's like, I don't feel like we're doomed, because we look better than we did in the running last season when we were blundering our way to safety. I mean, yeah, I haven't really got much to say other than get Ashley Young out the starting 11. He's not a left back. We've got a specialist left back. Just play him.
I'm actually finding it quite difficult to figure out where to point the finger in terms of worst individual performance. I thought Ashley Young obviously had a bad game, but whether we're just glamorising that or whether all of the other lads around him were terrible as well, but it didn't stand out to me as someone who had an unbelievably bad game. But I think that's just the nature of having a lot of bad footballers, is that they all kind of just naturally blend into one. We were saying earlier that in seasons gone by, I know it's only late August here and anything could happen, but I've always had something to hang my hat on in terms of, if this happens, then Everton will be fine. A couple of years ago we had people like Richarlison, we had Dominic Calvert-Lewin. There was enough. That season in particular, I thought we are too good to go down. As cursing as it is, I thought that was very true that year, and ultimately it turned out to be the case. Last year you always thought, well, we can always sack the manager and we can always just sell our souls to someone like Sean Dyche. He'll come in and play terrible football, but he probably knows how to get the best out of people and he'll keep us in the league. And it happened. And now I just think we're left with a group of lads who I don't think any of us have got any emotional attachment to or any sort of fondness in terms of being a technically good footballer. There is nothing in that playing squad that I would miss tomorrow if it wasn't here. And in Sean Dyche, we've gone down that route. He's essentially he's the upmarket Sam Allardyce, isn't he? Ultimately, that's essentially what we've chosen to be as a football club. He's bringing Michael Keane on with 5 minutes left, and he looks like a raffle winner on the right wing as someone who could possibly go on and play 10 minutes for Everton, lad. There's no structured plan about how Everton score a goal, progress up the pitch, win a football match. Everything about the whole football team for 90 minutes feels like a coin toss. And sadly, the biggest coin toss is on 70 minutes when Everton realise that, shit, we haven't scored a goal, we've somehow managed to stay in the game, but one of us have got to go for it here. And twice in succession at Goodison Park, we've managed to pass points on to teams that I think will ultimately struggle for the whole season. And we going back 6 weeks here to the middle of June and the fixture list came out, we all know the teams that we've got to play, but we all looked at August and thought that's a decent kind of bed yourselves in, let's forget about the bad seasons that we've had sort of run. And it ain't going to get any easier than Fulham and Wolves at home. And Aston Villa away wasn't the most daunting prospect. I'm looking at Sheffield United away next week on telly on the early kick-off. That feels like the derby, because we've got absolutely no chance of showing any form of backbone and going to any other Premier League ground and getting anything. Quite honestly now, I'd just take one going in off someone's arse just to prove that there isn't a big fuck-off piece of cellophane in front of the other opposition goal. But I think that this was a very impulsive thought when it came out the ground, but even on the back of the last couple of seasons, I haven't felt the sense of impending and obvious relegation before like I have today, because you just look at those lads and you just think there's nothing there. Not only are they obviously quite poor at football, but we watched them last Sunday just sack off a footy match after half an hour because they realised they'd gone one down. They thought, we're actually not good enough to do this. And that's the first away game of the season.
How long does this season feel like it's been going on for, by the way? It's only 3 weeks in. It feels like the middle of April.
For something like that, if Sean Dyche's Everton haven't got the quality that you expect them to have, then you hold your hands up and say, well, this is Sean Dyche's Everton. Other teams are going to have better footballers than us, they're going to play better football, they're going to be set up better, and they're probably going to win games. If Sean Dyche's Everton can't be gritty, horrible, tough to score against, have a little bit of a robust nature about them, then what is the point? And you know, we've been here too many times to say Dyche out, Lampard out, everyone out. You know, I don't know a man who could come in and do a better job, but it does all feel a little bit aimless when the manager is very limited, and his limited skill set is failing us as well. I just feel as like, you know, we've been circling the drain for a couple of years here, and you know, the plug definitely feels like it's been pulled at this point.
I think that was an excellent point that Mosey made there about not having a general connection. You're not attached to the players who play for us now. Like when you're seeing them and like you're screaming on someone, like we've always done. You know, when a kid comes on the pitch, like Cannon come on at the end, Schmidt came on, like that's something we're normally all up for. Debut, he's come in as like a talented player. You're just still sat there, aren't you? Thinking
a bit of a lift when they did come on. Like.
Do you know what I sort of think now? And this is probably harsh on him, but it's like if we've signed them, they're probably going to be crap. That's like sort of in my head now. It's like, when did we last sign a good player? Like, you know,
that's the inevitabilities. Like, it does feel like that. I do have one positive though. I'm not trying to talk like Sean Dyche did and Tarkowski did last week, saying there's loads of positives. We only got beat 4-0. It could have been worse.
There's only 17 left.
Yeah, it was Branthwaite.
Yeah.
I thought Branthwaite was brilliant. He did everything he was required to do at centre back. I don't want to say it too close to Laura, but I think Tarkowski was I thought he was completely at fault for their goal that they scored.
And the goalkeeper as well.
Pickford can come for it. You can automatically go for the lad who can, throw his hands like a foot above the head. That's something you're going to do automatically, but he doesn't even seem to move on that big lad that came on for Wolves, who was about 9 foot tall. He didn't even attempt to try and get it. And yeah, the changes that he makes are just, they look like desperation already. The type of thing you do when you're going towards the end of the season, you throw Michael Keane on front with 5-10 to go. And like I said before we start, you've got 5 days to try and do something about this and try and save it. They're not going to do it. They're simply not going to do it. They'll go and get one loan, I reckon, on a striker or maybe a centre back as well. But I don't look at that 11, or let's say the 19 in total, and think there's 11 I've picked there who I think can actually fight this now. It doesn't look like there's any sort of get up and fight from these lads, does it? Where the stages when Dyche came in, you're thinking this is a Sean Dyche side. The game against Arsenal at home, when he comes in, you're thinking that's how you get out of a relegation fight. This fella knows what it's all about. And I don't know how far I'm getting between, and maybe somewhere in the middle of me faulting him and how shit everyone else is. Because I don't know whether I'm looking at him thinking, he's getting the absolute best out of all these. But then we are looking at them thinking, this is a pile of shite. Sean Dyche must go into work thinking, I wish I weren't in today, I might phone in sick. It's somewhere between those two, and that's just a toxic place to be. Because if we're losing games and you can say Sean Dyche can't do any more about this, I'm thinking, all right, fine, I feel sorry for the fella. Then you guys think that there's something that he can't do, or he's doing as much as he can. I don't think he's doing as much as he can out of these players. They're
get attacked by a wasp here. Sorry.
Best chance I've seen all night from them. Sorry, I was saying there, the question was like, how far do you go about blaming Dyche? Do you think there's anything he can do better than what he does? I do, but that's not to save the players, because they're top of the list.
I would drop Garner Gay. He's fucking shit.
I go Onana ahead of him, to be honest.
Do you want to go, Matt?
Yeah, no, it's going to roll back to Branthwaite. Like, it is a positive, and it's got me thinking. Like, there's been a bit of a malaise hanging around the squad for a few years, but we've got players who haven't really been tainted by that. We've got Branthwaite, we've got Dobbin, we've got Chimiti, and possibly the lad from Italy who's coming in.
Jimmy Bidston.
Jimmy Bidston to an extent as well. But these are the players I think we should be starting. I mean, just when they announced Branthwaite's name before the match, there was like a big roar just to see him in the side. And the way he plays, it's like he plays in slow motion, but in a good way. Like, the ball will come to him and he doesn't panic at all. Yeah. He'll just swing his leg very slowly and then just pass it. Like, just for a lad of his age, nothing phases him at all. Like, that loan was the best thing for him. And I mean, it should be him and then one of Tarkowski, Keane, whatever.
They're having a good competition to be the ones that don't get it, aren't they? Those two at the moment.
Like, he should be first name on for me now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to get too carried away, because I think, as Chico said in the past, he was playing against the Roman child emperor up front, who was like, was pretty awful, wasn't he? But he was good. But I'm so like sat here now thinking like, why was he our best player today? It's because he like completed a few 10-yard passes.
Because he wasn't completely incompetent,
yeah.
where everybody else was.
Recoveries, like, just he did a lot, and there was a lot of tackling going on there for the first 60 odd minutes or so. Like, it was like a dice side. We were very combative, winning lots of balls, especially Decore. Wolves, to their credit, didn't do too much play acting, which surprised me because I've known them for that along the years. But I guess this raffle winner, to borrow a phrase there, that they got in from Bournemouth has kicked that out of them. But yeah, we were winning lots of balls, lots of tackles. I haven't looked at the stats yet, but there must have been quite a few. And after 60 minutes, it just kind of dropped off, and you know, the stuffy goal goes in, and all of a sudden it's just panic stations. Bring on Michael Keane. It's just mess.
He's an inch away from that Decore goal being a goal, by the way. If you look at it back, he's so close to that being a goal.
I think for me, and to be honest, this is something I spotted right from the start with Rafa as well, even when we were winning a couple of games, is you look at the possession stats in particular, and we are constantly ceding possession to the other team too much. And today, Wolves had the majority of possession. As much as we sit around and say we dominated them, there are actually large swathes of time where we let them have the ball and do what they please.
They had 53% of possession.
That's too much.
That
That's
is,
too much of the ball.
For a home game, that's too much time.
And even the best managers will tell you that in the simplest terms, the more you have of the football, the more likely you are to score goals and win games. And that seems to be something we're unable to grasp, either through complete incompetence or panic, or not being set up with a system that allows us to actually keep the ball. And to be fair, I mean, sitting in the park end today, there are a few people who got a bit too upset when we made 3 consecutive passes, so maybe it's their fault.
There's quite a few here on this.
Hello, by the way.
Good to see you.
Can I just say that's against a team today who's on their arse. They're absolutely on their arse. You got Gary O'Neill, who looks like a talented manager, by the way, in the last year. They got him in on a bit of a whim from Bournemouth, but you look at everything else they've got. They've lost the 3 best players. They've gone and lost them.
Well, the best player was suspended today, Nunes.
Yeah, there you go. He was suspended. And you look like central defensively wise, they're all right at that, but everything else you think this should be I hate to say it, Mark was absolutely right, it should be 3 points at home, unless we forget, against a side that's probably going to be the ones we have to finish above to stay up.
Yeah, they'll be going away from that feeling very lucky and feeling very pleased that they've got that 3 points. I think ultimately that's a sad indictment of how we've done. Because
I think the sad indictment is I came away from that game thinking Wolves are going to struggle this year. And I said exactly the same after Fulham, and it was kind of embodied by their kind of battering. Was it Brentford who went to Craven Cottage last week and hammered them?
Today.
Yeah, they did, to be fair. But I watched them for 90 minutes and thought, my God, they were awful. And they're 2 teams that have not turned us over, but they've obviously beaten us 1-0. And this whole, you know, I think it got exaggerated in the media after the Fulham game, as that, you know, Everton dominated the game, they were unlucky with chances, and I was like, well, I don't think you can just miss 2 or 3 sitters and say that you deserve to win the game. You know, if you deserve to win the game, you score sitters and you score goals. You know, we
putting the ball in the goal is quite an important part of being good at football.
And especially if you can't stop it up.
Well, that's it. Yeah, we play. We are not only a team, but we also play in a league whereby if you don't score a goal now, you can expect to get beat, because the games go on for about 300 minutes. Everyone's got a player who's capable of scoring a goal, and unfortunately, we're a team who are very capable of letting one in. So, you know, it's nice to pat ourselves on the back and say, like, don't we come out well in the first 25 minutes and we create good chances, and, you know, if this didn't happen and wasn't that offside tight, you've just got to beat shit teams at home if you want to stay in the league. Like, all we're asking is to win 10 football matches every 12 months. That's all we ever need to do.
We lost 10 at home last year, didn't we?
And if we do that, we'll stay up. You know, I think that there does have to come a point where, you know, this whole notion of accountability, not only for Dyche and the club in general, but I thought a lot of the players were accountable for that today, in terms of there's no one who wants to take any form of responsibility of being the person who makes sure that Everton win a football match. And I think if you play 4 central midfielders, which we ultimately are doing, you know, we're moving Garner out wide, I appreciate, but if you're playing 4 footballers who have spent their entire lives playing in a position where you are fully aware that you have to drive the entire ethos of the team, you expect someone in horrible situations, whether you're 1-0 down or there's 20 minutes left in the game you have to win, to take responsibility and say, we need to do this and this, or we have to increase the tempo, we have to pick things up, we have to get him involved in the game in order to win the game. And to a man, the only one of the four of them who is capable of doing anything is Abdoulaye Doucouré. And, you know, sometimes the ball goes into him and it ricochets 5 or 6 yards off him, and I think, I never want to see you again. And that's just the obvious initial frustration. But the other three lads, and I include James Garner in this, and I know he's a young lad, but there's far too much hiding from the ball, hiding from play, hiding from the entire situation that we're in at the moment for me to be comfortable with. You know, Abdoulaye Doucouré, he's not the most graceful man on the football ever, but he will get on the end of a cross, he will have a goal disallowed, he will do something. And we've got 3 other lads there who are just hiding from play, and one of them is supposedly worth £70 million. And if we smell a sniff of that money in the next 6 days, I expect Everton to bite hands off and go out in the market.
Just to finish off, the Blue Room is a safe space, so if anyone wants to talk about...
Can we talk about mental health?
Well, sort of, because I was going to say, does anyone just want to get any grievances out about Ashley Young's corners today?
Oh my good God, terrible. Why is he on corners, by the way?
The answer to that is yes, clearly.
Just felt very cathartic to get that out there right now. Gee, honestly, any ball that went into the box is being caught. What's the point?
I mean, on the positive side, he beats the first man.
Oh, well.
So, you know, it's something, isn't it?
The bar is so low, it's on the floor.
Let's give the man some credit. If any of you can do this at 67 years old, then fair play to you.
Have you met lad?
The worst part about the corner routines is that every single time we got one, Danjuma went over and offered short. And I thought, after corner number 17 in the 80th minute, I thought, do you know what? If you guys go 2-on-1 against that defender, that might be better than just lobbing it into his hands.
At least lose it in a different way. At least give the ball away in a different manner.
How scary is that as well, that your centre forward option is going short? Surely the centre forward is the one who should be in the box competing for the ball, and yet he was happy to stand in front of Young and then slowly trudge away to his point on the edge of the box, which I did not appreciate. What I appreciated less, to be fair, is taking Danjuma off on 90 minutes. Surely at that point, if you're throwing the kitchen sink of the game, just leave him on.
He's finishing today. I'd probably trust Keane with a one-on-one.
Yeah, well,
fair enough. No, to be fair.
At least Forrest got beat.
Anyone going to Doncaster, by the way? Opponents
No.
next season?
Turn that down swiftly.
I had the opportunity
I know
and said no.
I know Mags and that are going, but no. No, thank you.
You can go there on the way to Sheffield United.
I've just
which
sold
is now
my
a 9
I've just sold my
points instead
Sheffield
of
United
7.
ticket. I'd seen enough at Villa last week. If I'm
Has
honest.
anyone got anything else they just want to get out there before we wrap up?
Can Everton do anything right on any level?
No.
Is anything?
I thought the
One
tribute to Michael was very good,
That was
very touching. Thought we should mention that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd soft ice as well.
We'll leave it there. As Laura said, great tribute at the start to Michael. Feels like a fitting way to finish it. But yeah, on the pitch, disappointing for the Blues. Cheers to everyone who came on there. I've lost count of how many people were on. I can't be arsed saying the names. It's been a long day. But cheers for tuning in. We'll be back after Is Doncaster next? Is that this week? Right,
midweek.
God. Yeah, we'll be back then. And then it's Sheffield United, the big
to
one.
Yorkshire, aren't we?
The Tom Davis derby.
I hope he has a lovely time.
Of all the years of Mark Mosey just abusing that lad, they're going to come back to bite us on Saturday.
1-0,
Your
Davis.
fault.
I hope he scores.
Where's he gone, by the way? Is he gone
Sheffield United?
Sheffield United.
Has he, yeah?
Are you
I didn't know he was still playing football.
There you go.
He's going to score a Carlos Alberto, 1970 against us, I'm telling
There
you.
you go. That's why we're the most listened to Everton podcast. We don't know when our games are and who our players have signed, but we will wrap it up there.
Stick with us.
Yeah, but stick with us, yeah. Cheers to everyone. Up the toppies. Speak to you soon.